Welcome back to Human Movement. I thought what would be a nice change today is to do a little bit of an improvised session of what I usually do in the morning. Every morning I try and wake up pretty early and expose my joints to some range of motion, some stretches, some joint mobility. Just start off the day on a good tone, getting a lot of blood flow moving and feeling good after my 7, 8, or 9 hours sleeping in my bed. So let's go right onto the floor. We're going to be down on the ground for most of the session today. And we're going to set up here with our feet in front of our body, turning mostly straight forwards. With your hands behind you and your fingers pointing outwards, just want you to set those shoulder blades backwards. So pull them together, think retracting. Okay, and we're just going to hold this for a few seconds. Let's think about reaching our chests forwards while we retract our shoulder blades backwards and together. Okay. And after a few more moments, we're going to add a couple neck things here. That's what they're technically called, neck things. If this position is a little bit much to handle for your shoulders or for your wrists or other, you can just sit cross-legged or stand. Take your time now. Keep everything the same if you're going to remain in this position as you slowly flex your chin to your collarbone. And then extend your neck backwards, feeling nothing else move but your neck. And then again, a couple more times. And doesn't that extension backwards just feel amazing? Let's do one more. Good. I really like the extension, the moving backwards there in this position. It just feels a little bit more freeing than like a regular standing neck extension. Let's do some rotation. So looking over one shoulder like we do a lot. Don't neglect the neck. Don't neglect the neck. Maybe time and exhale as you reach your end range. Inhale as you're starting to look over the chest, then exhale as you look past the shoulder. Good, one more per side. Still same position with your chest, shoulder blades are retracted, pulling together. One more. Good. Give the arms a little shaky shake if you need to. Okay, next up, let's go into a child's pose, but let's change this up a little bit. I'm going to show you some different ways to get a little bit more range of motion out of your shoulders if you're capable of it. But of course, you can do a regular child's pose if that's a little bit more appropriate. So on your knees with your bum getting close to your heels, I want you to steeple your fingers like so, and you're going to keep them steepled as you walk yourself down. Feel your armpits open up, excuse me. And I had a big chest and back day yesterday for strength workouts, so I'm really feeling the lats here as I steeple these fingers, walk them out. You can do two things here if you look up. Note how my spine is kind of rounded. That's good. You could also sit a little bit more upright on the knees, and you can work on more extension of the spine like so. And this steepled fingers allows me to feel a nice stretch extending my spine, okay? I could really exaggerate the chest up, arching the back, or I could sit a little bit more backwards like I showed before, more of a classic child's pose. Steepled fingers and feeling that little change with the fingers that allows you to maybe access a little bit more lat stretch. Elbows are straight as you reach them overhead. Doing your best to relax here. Good. Start to make your way out. Sit cross-legged. Next movement looks a little bit funny, okay? But we're going to do a similar type position, which is going to be reaching forwards with our hands on the floor, not steepled this time. But I want us to do some hinging, some forward folding in this cross-legged position, because we're going to have this interesting hybrid of some hip mobility as well as spinal flexibility. Don't go through anything uncomfortable in terms of range of motion. We're going to start here. Just going to have you fold, gently think about pulling your belly button towards the floor. And then you're going to put your palms on the floor. And then should you feel comfortable, just going to have you reach those palms out a little further to a point you feel comfortable going to. It doesn't need to be max range. Make your way up. We're going to do that a couple more times. all the way down, walking the hands out. If you're a little bit more flexible, you can touch the forehead of the floor here. Okay, you don't have to. Walk it in. Let's do 2 more. A little reset, and then again. Walking hands out, elbows are straight ideally. Rest the head on the floor if you want. And actually what let's do is let's change the legs here. Because for some, that will be a big difference. Obviously with comfort, with where your ankles are on the floor, but also maybe your forward fold as well. Up, let's do one last one. Definitely more restricted for me here with my right leg crossed forward. The right hip for me, a little bit stiffer in external rotation, so a little tougher. Good. Let's stay in cross-legged. I'm gonna face you. And now what we'll do here with whatever leg feels more comfortable forwards, let's just do some lateral bending, okay? Not something we usually do in a cross-legged position, so kind of just feel it out. I like to put my other hand on the floor to allow me to access an opening side stretch. So I'll kind of support with this arm and just reach nice and wide, nice and long across the body. Again, trying to find an opening side stretch, not a closing side stretch or pinch. Opening side stretch feels amazing. And my sit bones, okay, are mostly on the floor. My butt cheeks, the one side's not really lifting off. They're both mostly down on the ground. Doesn't that just feel awesome? Other side. Use your supporting hand wherever and however you wish. And now let's do one more per side and about a 10-second pause. So you might feel comfortable going a little bit deeper into a stretch. You might want to hold back a bit. I'll let you determine. Deep breath in, deep breath out. Up. Other side. Another deep breath in, deep breath out. Good. Okay, back to the first position that we were in. Feet in front of the body, you can have feet up and toes off the floor. You can also have feet down, which is a little bit more challenging. Okay, it takes a little bit more hip flexor strength and mobility to keep us anchored here. Whatever you want to do. I'm going to do this. Recall this position, we were here. What I want you to do now is rejoin me, okay? Assert the shoulder blades back and down. Again, feet up, maybe a little bit easier, feet down, maybe a little bit harder. Seeing as minimal shift or movement from this position as possible. Just gonna have you wean one arm off, bring that arm behind the head, wean the other arm off behind the head. And of course, if we saw a little change in position, okay, you're not a terrible person, but trying to mostly stay in the same spot, do a little pivot. And now let's do some classic elbow hinges that if you do these videos, you do quite a bit with me, which is you're gonna take one arm off the head, you're gonna reach that over as straight and as high as you can, lift the shoulder towards the ceiling a few inches, bring it down, other side. Unhinge, lift up. We're gonna do 5 per side. This is 2, lift up. Notice the change from here to here. Other side, lift up. 3, trying to feel that there's minimal shift in the back, okay? So if you need an easier position, accommodate, do what you need to do. 2 more. Big reach. Here's 4 on the second arm. Last one, 5. And 5, big reach up. Good, nice. And you should be feeling some hips being challenged there, as well as some postural spine, right? So that you're not rounded, but you're holding that tall position. Very good. Let's move right to hands and knees. Let's do classic cat-cow. Let's really work on our segmented cat-cow, trying to wave the spine and articulate vertebrae by vertebrae, working from our tailbone and hip all the way to our neck. I'm not really going to talk too much in this because it's a little bit awkward with the mic, but watch if you need to, and yeah, try and feel that you're moving gradually from extension to flexion and vice versa, moving from your tailbone first. So Flexion looks like this. Head's nice and tucked. Feet can do whatever you want. Extend to the tailbone, low back. Move to the mid back. Finish off. And let's get a few more reps impromptu. Doesn't need to be fast, doesn't need to be slow. Let's get one more. Excellent. Hope the spine feels really nice. Let's do a little ballistic wrist. Okay, just gonna have you just give the wrist a little bit of pressure, just kind of flicking it out in some different positions. And then we'll do some wrist loading on the floor. Normal stuff, nothing fancy, but things I recommend you do every day to keep the wrists healthy, right? Think about how often we're on keyboards. Let's expose these wrists to some loaded ranges and keep them healthy. Let's first go with fingers really wide and splayed, facing forwards. Just gonna have you reach forwards with your upper body over the wrists, getting a little bit of a stretch. That's it. Now I want you to bring the fingers together, not a position I usually like. And we'll do the same thing, a little hold. 3, 2, 1. Fingers outwards and splayed to begin. Let's hold. 3, one side, 2, 1, other side. 3, 2, 1. Close the fists, close the fingers and the thumbs. Other side. 3, 2, 1. Other side. 3, 2, 1. Widen your fingers again. Last one we'll do for today is backwards. Let's pull backwards and hold. 3, 2, 1. If you need to, do a little lift. Assert the fingers and thumbs together. And then again, 3, 2, 1. Good. Nice. Give the wrist a little bit of a shake as needed. Let's go back to our kind of hips and sit on the floor, and let's work to Shin Box. So if you don't really know Shin Box, maybe you'd get set up in 90-90 first, where hip and knee are aligned, knee is bent at 90 degrees. Same thing with the back leg, okay? And what we do here is we think about keeping the knees where they are. The knees are not gonna move, but I'm gonna bend at the knee for a position that looks like this. I'm gonna square up with you, and we're just gonna spend 30 seconds here just hanging out, sitting in the Shin Box. You may feel a little stretch or something through the back hip here. That's a good thing if you are. That would be some internal rotation stretch. You can think about this back bum cheek. Gently allow it to sit down towards the floor. That can encourage some internal rotation. We just don't want to overforce it. Okay. Pretty staple human position that we want to be able to maintain and use. Eat some meals here from time to time, change it up, do some texting here. Yeah, good position, internal rotation. Look at all the knee stuff going on. It's a nice resting position for our spine as well. However you want to, let's go to your other side, Shin Box. And as we're now here for about 30 seconds, try and emulate those same cues, which is the back butt cheek here. Try and relax that down to the floor, okay? If there's a big gap, that's okay. Just trying to relax down to the floor. If you can make contact, cool, kudos to you. Trying to feel a soft stretch here, but it shouldn't be pinchy, it shouldn't be uncomfortable. If it is, you just sit out of that pressure like so. Let's do 10, 12 more seconds. Good. Okay, back to cross-legged just real shortly. We're gonna do a couple spinal rotation type things next. Easy cross-legged position. I want your opposite hand reaching over your knee. Other hand's gonna go wherever you want. It can be on the floor, it can be by your butt cheek, it could be grabbing something. I just want you to gently rotate the spine and try and look behind you, as straight behind you as best you can, like this. And just a little peek, okay, behind you. You're not gonna hang out there excessively. Switch sides. So I'm feeling some rotation in my upper back primarily. That's our main goal. The lower body is not really doing much. But really tight through external rotators of your hips, you're going to find this challenging. One more per side, and let's add that 10-second pause we saw on our previous side bend movement. So looking behind you and holding for 10 seconds, don't overdo it. Slowly eggs on out back to center. 10-second pause, second side, let's do it. Take some gentle breaths here if you're holding this end range rotation position. Good. Now, we're going to try and take it up a notch here. Going to have you sit one leg out and then a second leg. Okay, if you need some assistance getting to the position, just use your hands, reset the legs a little bit. So in somewhat of a straddle position, let's do a couple reps, the same thing. You're going to turn, look behind you. You can use assistance on the floor with your hands wherever you want. A little bit harder though would be doing it without hands, which could be hands by your rib cage as you rotate, or even harder would be prisoner position. Okay, we're gonna do a few reps back and forth, side to side, no pause. I'll show you from easy to hard. So a little bit easier, hands are spotting, okay? I'm gonna feel more strain through the groin, okay, as I start to rotate the opposite way. Don't overdo it, other side. Think about pulling the chest up nice and tall, try and stay flat with the spine as best you can. Contrary to rounded, fold it over. A little bit harder. Gonna try and anchor down more through the legs. Hands could wrap or be here as you rotate through the chest and spine. Don't overdo it, other side. Again, feeling that demand of the hips here to pull yourself into the position and allow the flexibility to occur. Last rep, stick with one of the first two variations or join me with a little prisoner action here. I try and think about exposing the back face of my elbow here to the wall behind me. Whew. Doesn't that feel good? Fantastic. Okay, let's start to finish off today's session, and let's just do some easy shoulder stretches now as we start to wrap things up. Let's take left hand. You're gonna weave it through your right fist and your right knee. Try and get fingertip, wrist, forearm, elbow, bicep, all that on the floor. We know this one. Hang out for a couple seconds. Now we're gonna come on up. Same arm that was on the floor is gonna weave its way up. We're gonna do a 10-second pause, looking at the ceiling. Three, two, come on down gently and softly. Other side. Arm comes through. Fingertip, wrist, forearm, elbow, bicep, shoulder. As much of that as you can. Place on the floor, holding for a few seconds. Doing your best to relax. And up. That arm that was on the floor now reaches up to the ceiling and holds for 10 seconds. Good. Last thing we're going to do here, I'm going to be tall kneeling. You can be half kneeling, you can be standing, you can be seated. Let's just do some really slow shoulder blade rotations, taking about 5 or 6 seconds to move through one full rotation. Okay, so I'll count it for the first rep. You can see what I'm talking about here. Lift your shoulder blades up, and then starting to pull backwards. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, pulling them down now. 3 Mississippi, 4 Mississippi. Really reach the knuckles to the floor. Rolling forwards. 5, 6 Mississippi. Try and keep that same tempo nice and slow as you go through your 4 shoulder blade areas. Forwards, up, back, down, forwards, and now other way. Holding that forwards for a moment, feeling what this protraction is like. And now pressing arms to the floor, trying to touch knuckles to the floor. Pulling backwards, retracting, up, forwards, down, back, Up, one more for 6 Mississippis, 5 Mississippis, 4 Mississippis, 3 Mississippis, 2 Mississippis. Done. Really nice. Hope you enjoyed today's session, and I will see you next time you join me in human movement.